Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Mary Corbet. Hi Mary.
Hi Sue.
You know, it's lovely to speak to you. We were just laughing, weren't we? It's taken us a few goes to get this fast for one reason or another. Yep. So, yeah, really excited to speak to you today.
Thanks.
Well, Mary,
yes.
I don't know if I even need to give you an introduction, but I will do anyway, because you are extremely well known in the needlework and embroidery arena. Right, so Mary Corbet. I come from a large family of creative siblings. We all like to dabble in various creative pursuits, but embroidery is my particular thing. I work full-time as an embroiderer, designing, stitching and writing, and it's a good job, and I'm grateful to have it. I started my website, Needle and Thread, after spending a few summers teaching children how to embroider. The original blog was really an extension of those classes. I think I was the first embroidery blog to publish a series of how-to videos for embroidery stitches. YouTube had just started to take off. Instagram and Pinterest didn't exist, and that's when Needle and Thread really began to grow. At the time, I was a college professor, but as my website grew, I decided to move out of teaching full-time and into embroidery full-time. I have a small studio where I work here in northeast Kansas, and I still teach kids classes locally in the summer and occasionally adult classes as well. But my first focus is Needle and Thread, where I'm so happy to be in contact with a lovely community of enthusiastic embroiderers around the world. Of course, Mary's examples of her latest work and all of her links and information are all on her episode on stitcherystories.com, so I won't drone through all of those, but yeah, she's everywhere, providing lots of lovely inspiration for us all.
Thank you.
Thank you for that little potted bio there. So what would you like to share with us? What you're working on at the moment and what's got you excited?
Well, that's such a hard question because I'm working on a lot of things. Last year was kind of I think it was a hard year for everybody. And I just ended the year with a lot of projects hanging over my head that I really wanted to get out to people.
Yeah.
So right now I'm working on a couple projects from last year that I'll be publishing on the blog in the next couple months, finally.
Right.
So I have a little heart project and a silk and a gold work project. And then I have a silk and beadwork project. And for the fun of it, I'm working on one of Elisabetta Sforza's monograms. She's an Italian designer.
Yeah. Oh, is that the M? It's in lovely turquoises and things.
It is.
Yep,
that one.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. It is so much fun. And I started on the first day of the year with a little stitch sampler that I'm determined to work on just a tiny bit every day.
Yeah.
For about 20 minutes each morning.
Uh-huh.
So I'm working on that too, just for the fun of it, to see what develops. And it's really awful. It looks terrible, but that's okay. It's fun. I'm enjoying that. So those are the things I'm working on right now. And I have a whiteboard that's got a list, 20 items long for 2021. So we'll just see if I get through any of it.
Well, it wants to be 21 items anyway, doesn't it, really?
I know, it really should
20.
Be.
Yeah, come on. Get another one
That's
added
right.
on that list. Make it nice. And
right.
I like round, logical numbers. You cannot have 20 if it's 21. Right,
That's
yeah.
right.
Now, I saw you posting about the daily stitch. Is it like a long, thin?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're using up things, aren't you, for that as well?
Yeah. And that is I like that part of it, especially because I have so many partial little bits of skeins and spools. So I just I don't even look. I just pick something up from my basket and start. There's no plan. Absolutely.
Right.
No
right.
plan.
Oh, isn't that hard, not having a plan? Says me who's obsessed with plans. God, I don't know if I could do without a plan.
I know. And that's
I'm feeling nervous about that already.
sort of makes you sweat a little bit.
It does.
And at first, when I first started, I just kind of sat there looking at it and I thought, well, what am I supposed to do? And then I just said, okay, well, I'm just not even going to think about it. I'm just going to do whatever comes into my mind.
Yeah.
At that moment.
Yeah.
And actually what's kind of happened is I end up with an idea and I start it and I can't finish that amount of it, in 20 minutes. So it carries over to the next day, and the next day I finally finish it. And then by the time I'm finishing, one little segment,
yeah,
I've got an idea for the next one, but but not really. There's no plan. No plan.
Right.
It'll be a mess.
Is this quite a big piece?
It's the fabric is, the stitching area on the fabric is 6 inches wide.
Right.
And the piece of fabric is 36 inches long.
Right.
So it's a yard long.
Yeah. Well, that kind of feels doable over a year, I suppose, she says.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I don't have to add fabric onto it. That would be terrible. But it's fun.
Oh, that sounds really great. And what triggered that off? Was that just something you fancied doing something without a plan? Yes,
exactly. I tend to be really, when I start to embroider something, I tend to be super meticulous about it. And especially because, I'm taking pictures for the blog or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And so I will take things out, put them back in, take things out until I get it exactly how I want it. But with this, that's one of the rules.
No unpicking.
Yeah, it's one of the rules on my no rule project that I can't do that. If I start it, if I don't like it, I stop where I am, but I don't take anything out.
Right. Yeah. So
it's different, and it makes it fun, but it's kind of hard in a sense in that way, because I don't like taking pictures where I look at it and I think, oh, wow, I would pick that out and redo it.
Yeah. So it's actually turning into quite a challenge, because it's making you come out of your comfort zone in terms of how you work, isn't it? It's nothing to do with the stitching, but it's everything to do with how you approach your stitching and how you plan and photograph and all the rest of it. You've made a rule there with your no rules that you are it, and you've got to feel uncomfortable, I suppose, in about, well, this is what I've done, so I'm now going to take a picture of it, kind of thing. So yeah. Actually, that's quite a challenge then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what makes it fun, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's fun to see what develops, and I like to look at it and kind of, laugh at it. Chuckle a little bit and say, oh, wow, that's kind of funny. Why did I do that? Well.
And I noticed you had a hashtag going. So have you got quite a lot of people joining in as well then?
This is kind of embarrassing to admit that I'm not exactly sure how to use that part of Instagram. So I get on Instagram and I know how to post pictures and I can search a hashtag.
Yeah.
But but to actually keep up with that on a regular basis, I haven't looked yet.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't publish it as, hey, do this with me.
Yes, I realized that, yeah.
If I had maybe pushed that a little bit and said, hey, come on, let's do this all together and let's have a group and set up a hashtag on Instagram and let's all, and really pushed it that way, maybe it would grow into something. And I would love it if people wanted to. That's fine. But I didn't start out that way because I really, again, it wasn't really spontaneous because I thought about doing it, I think, back in November.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I didn't think about it again until December 31st.
Yeah.
I will check that, though. That's a good idea.
I'm naughty, aren't I, asking these questions?
Yeah. It's a lot.
Sorry. But what I was going to say, though, was I can understand that, in that you've wanted to do it for you and you've just said, oh, I've got this, let's do a hashtag. Because the other side of the coin is, if you'd have said, right, okay, we're going to have this challenge and we're doing this, then you would have spent more time organizing it, setting up groups, doing this, doing that, doing the other. And this was supposed to be a little fun project for you as a kind of a stitching challenge for you. So I can totally understand that. It's something for you. And if somebody just wants to come along and do it, fine. But it's not an organized group. It's not an organized thing. It's like, come and join on if you want to. And that's it. You're not leading it, administering in it or anything that. Yes.
That's right. Yep.
In a nice way, because this is what you're doing rather than it being another aspect of your business and your online presence, I suppose. Yeah. So.
Right.
Yep. Right there. Have I dug you out of that hole, do you think?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Now I made it in the first place.
That's right. Thank you.
Right. Fabulous. So actually that sounds quite exciting. You're obviously, really pleased with starting it. And it does sound, as you say, challenging yourself. Yeah. And the other projects, are they then things that are for different groups or for just general release or for sale? Where are you with? Oh, I'm nosy. Where are you at with those?
Well, that they are more for the business side of things.
Yes.
So the little heart project, I had an idea last year about producing a small project every month.
Yeah.
And putting that out. It's not 100% feasible because I think I'd have to work a whole year ahead of time. And maybe that's what I did, maybe now I'm starting and maybe next year it'll happen. I don't know. But the heart project, that'll come out as an ebook, and I have a thread pack that goes with it. So it's not really a kit, but I know that the threads I'm using are hard to come by.
Right.
And they're also hard to come by in small quantities. When you buy a skein of floche, it's a big skein and it's expensive.
Right. Yeah.
So I bought the skeins and I broke them down into small skeins.
Right.
And braided them and, made a cute little thread pack to go with the heart project.
Right.
And then the silk and gold work rose, that's coming out as a kit. And then the Jacobean Sea is also coming out as a kit later on this year. So.
Right. And those you've got pictures of those. Yeah, the Jacobean Sea, that's that lovely sea-inspired colour palette. That's it. It's a better description than what I was going to say. Mary's given me some of the shots of those as well. So lovely. We can all have a peep as to what's coming on there. Right. Okay. So I can see you've got plenty to work on and plenty to be excited about as well.
Yep.
So I was just, when we were chatting first there, it was obviously you've told us how you kind of got interested in embroidery and how it mutated into a choice between being a college professor or doing this full time. So that was really great. So the choice and the kind of the style you've developed, where do where's that come in? Are you self-taught? Have you been taught by anybody? How's it evolved? I guess is because I do think you'd have a distinctive style, very much so.
Oh, thank you. So when I was a kid, the only thing that I ever saw was counted cross stitch,
right?
Because that was the big thing in the States in the 80s. In the 70s. And well, I don't know. The 70s, I wasn't really aware. I was, just really a little kid.
Yeah.
But by the time I became aware of, needlework and stuff like that, really the only thing I ever saw was counted cross stitch. So I did a little bit of that as a child because that's what my aunt was doing and my sisters and stuff.
Right.
And my mom. Mm-hmm. And then... Well, my mom got me a used copy of the Reader's Digest Encyclopedia of Embroidery Techniques, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it's this, big fat
massive
book that I think was produced. Yeah, it was made, I think, in the 70s, maybe 60s or 70s. But it's a great book. I still have it. Mm. She picked it up at a garage sale or somewhere. Yeah. And I started just kind of dabbling with that when I was still in school, in high school. And then when I went on to college, I was taking history of art courses, and I got into kind of the medieval illumination and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the things that really captured my attention in history of art. And then that moved into coming across ecclesiastical embroidery from the Middle Ages through the Renaissance and, the Opus Anglicanum and all that. But to find anything, so this was in the 1990s, and it was pre-internet. And to find anything, I had no idea how to find anything about any of that. At first, I just looked up more of the history of art of that era, of the different eras, kind of got a sense of artistic styles and things like that. And then I came across a book in a university library here in Kansas. I can't remember what the book was. And anyway, I think it was something by Pugin on ornament or something. And then from there, I found Real Silk Threads, which was exciting to me. And I had started by that time just designing my own pieces that were based on the items that I saw and that I researched in just history of art.
Right. And do you know what? It's quite interesting you're going through that, because when I was, obviously the episode the week before you was when I was speaking with Cindy Jackson about Tudor embroidery.
That's right.
Of course, she was, based in Canada and, had to look at the Royal School of Needlework in the university phone book and this kind of thing. So it's quite fascinating. And obviously you're looking at those periods in time where it didn't exist in the States, So
That's right.
It's not like you've got local reference, whereas here I can have a half an hour drive and I can get to York Minster and I can look at, the Gothic cathedral and all the stuff that is there. It's in some respects it is still on our doorstep, but it wasn't on your doorstep because it never existed there. So it's another challenge, isn't it? Another hurdle there.
That's right.
Really interesting.
So at one point, of course, I figured out who Erica Wilson was. I don't even remember when that was. So that was kind of an eye-opener. Oh, there is surface embroidery, all these embroidery techniques in the US.
Yeah.
I just have to find out how to find out about them.
Right, yes.
And then I was home so I was living in Florida. I mean, I was going to school in Kansas at the time, but I was from Florida. And I went home for summer vacation. And my sister, she does heirloom sewing. She had picked up the pilot copy of Inspirations magazine. And this was in 1993. I was home on summer break and I saw this magazine and I said, "You've got to be kidding me. This is great." So I took it. I stole it. And she subscribed to the magazine. And every time I came home, I just pinched her copies.
Pinched her magazines.
That's right. Well, I mean, I was in college. I couldn't afford afford them. So then once I had those, it just opened up that world. And then I became aware of Jane Zimmerman here in the US. She was doing some kind of the 17th century stitches and gold work and stuff, so it just sort of developed very organically that way. Yeah.
And while you were at college, did you pretend that you didn't do embroidery? I know I used to like occasionally I had a piece and it's from some transfers from like 1933 Good Needlework Woman magazine or something, and there's this classic kind of a little house and gardens and stuff like that, and I'll chain stitch and all this kind of thing. And I used to like hide in my room and do it sometimes, as a break, but I never told it, because good grief, you can't sit and do embroidery. This is like 1984. It's like, oh no, everyone will think I'm really weird.
I think I didn't have a problem. It never actually occurred to me that it was nerdy or anything. It probably was. I just never thought about it. So that's why people looked at me funny. Now I know.
Oh, there's that weird girl doing that weird embroidery.
That's right.
Oh, brilliant. And so then you've really evolved from there. So from early on, designing your own designs and kind of doing your own thing, as opposed to fill the void when normally now everyone goes and looks at YouTube and things like that. You didn't have that, did you? To do it, make it yourself.
Yeah. And the other thing, so I started collecting pieces too, as soon as I had, a job and some money.
Yeah.
I found old embroidery things like that I could pick up. At first it was, thrift shops and things like that.
Yeah.
And then between here and Florida and just different travels, I would go to old churches. They often have sacristies that have old vestments and things like that. So I'd look for the old Catholic churches and old Anglican churches, and anywhere that would have kind of that look of, hey, maybe they have an old sacristy, or maybe they have a museum or something.
Right. Yeah.
And that way I could see things up close. Yeah. And also at the same time, I made it to, the Met and the Nelson Atkins here in Kansas and places like that.
Yeah. Look at their collections.
Yeah. Big museums to see things up close, and as up close as you can get. And,
yeah. In the gloom.
Yeah. and no iPhone to take to take pictures. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it, and it just sort of went from there.
So what set you off then, given that when I was speaking with Sharon Boggon, another early pioneer of blogging, what set you off blogging and videoing, given that videoing and them, it was really hard? What set you off on that direction then? I'm quite intrigued how you made the leap from liking and, enjoying the embroidery and the charm of the practice, I suppose, and the, delight of designing things. What set you off on I'm going to have a blog and I'm going to do YouTube, videos?
Now you make it sound like I had a plan, like I'm going to do a blog. And
it's because I'm obsessed with plans.
I didn't have a plan.
You just drifted into it.
So I was teaching out here in Kansas. And then during the summer, because as everybody knows, during the summer, teachers don't work. They just sit around doing nothing.
You've got nothing to do, have you, all day?
That's right. I'm just kidding. But you do have more free time in the summer. And so in my just little community here in our town, I started offering children's classes.
Yeah. Because
that's one thing that I noticed is that, kids during the summer, they don't have much to do. And kids today, or at least then, this is 15 years ago, they don't have hobbies. You don't see kids with a lot of real hobbies. Too frequently,
so much, it's all on gaming now, isn't it? Don't start me off on that with my son.
So I thought, well, I would, start these kids' embroidery classes, but to make them accessible, I didn't charge for them. I charged just a $5 cover fee,
right,
for each child, to help me with supplies. That kind of got a little expensive, and about the third year I was doing that, my brother said, you ought to start a blog.
Right.
And I said,
right.
Why? And he said, well, it would just be an extension of your classes. Only that way, you've got these kids that are coming to you every summer. You've got their parents who are saying, hey, could you teach me how to do that? He said, you ought to start a blog. Right. And he's an IT guy. So he was already into everything. And I said, okay, what's a blog?
Yeah.
And that's where it started.
Right.
So I had to figure out what a blog was. And then I found out that, I already knew that, video was it wasn't really big like it is now. In fact, the videos, were grainy and hard to see, but wow, they were videos and anybody could click on them and see a video, you know?
Yeah.
Now you look at videos online and every single person who puts out a video puts out a professional, beautiful, perfect video. But back then it wasn't really like
the equipment didn't allow us to do that anyway. And the bandwidth and there was everything was against us. That's right. It was just a nightmare. Right. Yeah. I used to do a lot of video marketing with clients and it was really hard work.
Yeah. So I had this little Olympus point and shoot, that's all I had for a camera. Yeah. So shortly after starting the blog, and actually it was Sharon, you brought up Sharon Boggon. Yeah. She was the one blog that I followed avidly when she had In a Minute Ago. Yeah. Back then. She was the first real blogger about embroidery who really took it, to the instructional level and made it I thought exciting, And I just loved her blog, and I still do. I follow Pentangle avidly.
Yeah.
But she was really an inspiration too. But I started, just with a typical, blogger template type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't really expect anything from it, really.
Yeah, just started and wanted to see what would happen. Yeah, yeah.
And you know what? I think it's important that I did it that way.
Yeah.
Because if I had told myself, well, I have to have a plan. I have to, get this lined up first and that lined up first. And I can't start until I do this or this. And I have to have this ready. I would have never started it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point, actually. As much as I kind of laugh on about plans and all the rest of it, it can be just the thought of even trying to put, when you don't know what you don't know, you can't put a plan together. It's impossible. So yeah, right. you have to start, don't you, and feel your way through it, and then go, oh no, I can't do that yet. Oh, I need to do this thing. Right, okay, I'll go and do this thing. Right, and off you go. Yeah, it's an iterative process, just like embroidery is, or design, or anything else. Yeah, so it's really grown from those beginnings. Then.
Yeah. Again, when I started the blog itself, it was just, okay, here I am, and I'm going to write my first blog post. And I have no idea, exactly what I'm doing. I just know that I write it in this space. I type here.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully it will do what the screen says it's going to do. And then I hit publish. And that was, the beginning. But I didn't plan at that point to do video, but then I saw that, video made sense. So why not try it? Yeah. And then it went from, that's when, just those little videos that I first started doing and collecting in a list, that's when the blog really took off. It was about 4 or 5 months into it. So. Right.
Brilliant. Oh, that's really great. And then my other question, and then we'll move on to embroidery. I've been going on about blogs.
Sorry.
No. It's me. I'm interested in all this stuff. I'm just fascinated to see the development, and hopefully just to encourage people still that if you haven't got a blog now and you still fancy one, it's never too late. Don't think, oh, well, Mary and Sharon have written everything there is to know about embroidery. No, they haven't. There's always,
that's true.
There's always your own personal twist on things and your own personal discoveries. Right. And, and I feel as if it's quite important to say that, to be honest.
I agree. And today, it's, I don't want to say it's so easy to start a blog, but it really, it's easy to start a beautiful blog because WordPress and everything else, they have these templates that just work flawlessly, and you can just
it's so much easier, isn't it, to make it look nice now.
Look nice. That's right. You don't have to code. You're not having to do your own HTML and CSS and everything. So I still do that actually myself. I do actually do that, but
well done. You don't need to.
No, I have a template, but I do have style sheets and everything that I take care of. And I don't use the automated formatting because I don't know, it never seems to come out quite right.
Well, you've got into a groove of how you do things, haven't you? So,
it's a habit.
The other thing I was just going to say was back to the content thing. So people think, well, crikey, Mary, you've written all these blog posts, and there is a lot, isn't there? How do you keep going? There's a question. How do you think about what to write next, given that you've been at this for quite a long time and you've written so many brilliant blog posts?
Well, thank you. Let's see. At 2:00 in the morning, I think...
I do that too.
That's right. I think, oh gosh, that's a good idea. I should write about that. And I jot it down. Or I lay there for 2 hours thinking, okay, I need to line up this. I need to line up that. But no, really, it's like you said, it seems like everything has been said, but with every new project that I do, or even when I do a repeat project, I find something new to write about, even if it's just my mistakes, I think it's important. I think it's important to write about my mistakes. So, and I make them all the time. So I always have something to write about when it comes to, mistakes and things like that.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, definitely. It is just about your journey, isn't it?
That's right. And I think that's it with everybody. Anybody who wants to start a blog, or anybody, even, anybody who's already a designer and a teacher and everything, every project you do, you're learning something from it. If you're not learning anything from it, I don't see how it could be, how you could keep doing it. I think it would be boring. You just get tired of it, of embroidery in general, if it was never something new every time, So that's, for me, every project I do seems like a new beginning, where I'm learning something else, or because I make mistakes, or just because I want to see the development of this combination of stitches, or these colors together, or whatever. It's exciting. And that's where I find things to write about.
It's the endless delight of embroidery and textile art.
That's right.
It's just, it is an endless delight. Brilliant.
It is. It's, but I think it's that way with any kind of art, really, or creative pursuit. So, yeah. So
given all of this, I mean, we've kind of chatted around a lot of the things we would normally talk about. What would you say, Mary, has been the high points of what you've achieved with your needle and thread blog, given that it started off as a way to add on to teaching, local kids embroidery? What are the things that you particularly you think are a highlight?
Well, I think the greatest thing about needle and thread isn't exactly Mary Corbet. it's the community, I think, around the blog.
Yes.
Just so many people that, comment or leave advice or ideas in the comments on the blog, but also that communicate, even on social media and email. I get hundreds of email a day.
Wow.
And I can't answer them all. I just can't. But I try to, pick out the ones that really need answers, or that have, the easy ones that I can say, go to this link, or, you'll find your answer here, that type of thing. But I would say that the community and the stories that they tell, and that's really what it's what feeds me as far as needle and thread goes. It's that's the important part of the website for me. But I think as far as career-wise, if that's what you mean, highlights.
Well, anything that, to me, the community aspect, is fabulous. So, I mean, anything that you think is a highlight is a highlight.
So, Search Press asked me to write the foreword to Mary Thomas's Dictionary of Embroidery Stitches that they republished last year or the year before. And that was an honor. That was a big honor to me, because I've had the original of that book for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite books. And so when they asked I was honored.
We say chuffed in Yorkshire. You were chuffed.
I was chuffed. I have to start using that word. I need to make it a word in Kansas. Yeah. Say it. Chuffed. I was chuffed. Chuffed. I don't know if I can say it just like you do. It sounds better when you say it.
You need the Yorkshire accent to go with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that, as you say, being a highlight. Yeah, absolutely. Because everybody's got that book just about, haven't they? So
it's a good book. Yep.
Brilliant. And do you know what? I do have to ask.
Okay.
We'll quickly get in. I normally ask about disasters, and I normally ask about UFOs.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, as far as an embroidery disaster goes, I have not actually had what I would consider a disaster ever. And I'm not saying that because I'm a great stitcher. I'm saying it because I don't see mistakes in embroidery as disasters or things that go wrong. They're just, in my mind, disaster is such a big word that the things that happen in the embroidery sphere in my life, they don't if something goes wrong, well, it goes wrong. And in perspective, it's not a big deal to me.
A mild aberration.
Yeah, I learn from it. And I can easily let it go.
Yeah,
those things don't bother me much. But I did do something, I wrote about it on the blog not too long ago, and I would say it was a studio disaster. Had gotten into the habit of going barefoot, and I stepped on a needle.
No.
In November. And the problem is that, it's one thing to sort of step on a needle and go, ouch, but this thing got embedded in my foot.
We're all feeling sick now, Mary.
Yeah, sorry. And, well, it ended up being, having to go through surgery to have it removed. That to me was a disaster.
That is a disaster.
It was a disaster and an irony and so stupid. But I just couldn't believe it. When I was waiting at the hospital and everything, I thought, wow, this is just, I can't believe this.
Oh, it's awful. As my mum would say, get some slippers on.
Exactly. So it was a learning experience. So again, dear. I don't know, but so that's, if I were going to tell anybody, here's a piece of advice. Don't go barefoot in your stitching area. Because it can be expensive and painful.
You've got to pay as well, haven't you? Yeah, crikey. Yeah. Even more annoying.
That's right. So
so you get the prize, and I don't think anybody else nobody's admitted to standing on a needle. So that.
Well, actually, after I posted that on my blog,
did you get lots of comments?
Oh yeah. So I was grateful and thankful and a little bit relieved that I am not the only person in the world who has done that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then UFOs, I have one, and it really does. It hangs over me like a cloud.
In true UFO style.
That's right. I do think about it almost every day. It's an ecclesiastical piece that I started about 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So it's not one of those 20-year projects, but it's gold work, and actually it's a refurbishing. I removed old embroidery from a vestment and I'm replacing it on a new piece of cloth of gold, and I'm building a gold work frame around it. And I mean, every time I sit down at that, it is like my mind turns into this brick wall, and I don't know what to do next, on this gold work frame. And so I just pick away at little parts of it, and then I have so many other things going on that I allow myself to be easily distracted
with it. Yes. Dear me, I appear to be busy. I've got a blog post to write. I'll put that to one side.
Right. Darn. Oh, darn. So that's been hanging for 3 years. And I keep telling myself, this is the year that I will finish that. And I, 2021, it's one of the first things I wrote down.
It's at the top of that list.
Project. Yeah. And we're a month into it, and I have not even touched it. So I don't know if I will finish it this year, but I keep thinking about it, and I might.
Do you think you'll ever finish it?
Well, I hope to.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I have to. In fact, I should just make myself finish it. I should just say my deadline is, 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And I must finish this. I don't know why. It's like a writer's block or something. It's just not. Yeah. It's not speaking to me. But yes, I feel like I should absolutely finish it, because it's actually not for me. It was somebody asked me to do it, and I acquiesced, and I said, because I kind of have a policy now that when, people ask me, can you do this project for me? I generally say no.
Right. Yeah.
Because to commit to a big project, I don't have the time, and it gives people certain expectations that you're going to, deliver. And I'm not talking about paid projects. It would be one thing but I don't accept bespoke work anymore either. Right, too often. Occasionally I do, if it's something really important. But this ecclesiastical piece is not really, it's not a paid project or anything.
Yeah.
But I did say I would do it. So I need to do it.
So you've got the guilt aspect in there as well.
That's right.
Yeah. It's
the friend who asked me to do it, I said, I will do it, but you must understand this. And it was after, three or four very persistent, begging conversations. And I finally said, okay.
You finally gave up.
That's right. I said, you have to understand that, one, you cannot harass me about it ever. And two, I can only, I'm not going to work to a dedeadline for it.
Yeah.
And that's where my big mistake was. I should have just said,
the magic of
give me a deadline.
Yeah. Oh. But it's like the general thing about boundaries, isn't it? And that's the thing.
That's right.
To avoid just running ourselves ragged and not spending enough time on anything of importance, we do need to set those boundaries. And it's like you said about kind of emails or, running a challenge group or any of those things. We have to balance off. Yes, we're helpful and kind and we love taking part and we love sharing and we love all the rest of it. But there also has to be a boundary in there somewhere, because otherwise the thing that suffers is us and our work and our direction. And we can't have everybody else controlling our day, because otherwise, we just can't survive.
That's right. Yeah. And you can't do everything. I finally,
Yeah. We all think we're Superwoman, don't we? I'm terrible.
I guess. But I had to, that's one thing as my blog has developed too. I've had to say, okay, I cannot do everything. I have to concentrate on what I can do. And that's kind of one of my mottos anyway, is, do what you can do. Yeah. But don't beat yourself up for not doing what you can't, you know?
Let's celebrate what we've achieved. That's my thing. What have you achieved?
And just to reasonably tell yourself, I can do this thing, even if it's a challenge, or something that, seems big. I can do this. Yeah. So I will do that. But I'm not going to beat myself up because I can't do this other thing. That's or I'm not going to let somebody else beat me up. Yeah, that's right. You have to make your choice.
We've got that choice, haven't we? So, well, I think on that note about boundaries and making choices and looking forward, now you've already shared with us what's really, I suppose, coming up. You've finishing projects for 2021. You've got your list of 20 things for 2021. Is there anything that we can find? You've got to find one more. Is there anything else that you want to share with us as a peep coming up? Is that it?
I know.
Only those things.
Only those things. That's right. I wish I had, one specific peep of something that so another project that I do have coming out this year that I got a lot of questions about last year. It's called Fantasia in Silk. And I've had so many requests for a kit. So that's something that I also plan to have coming out at some point this year. It's not going to be in the first half of the year, though. Yeah. So that's kind of exciting.
And that's that's one of the pictures as well that you've shared with me as well. So that's really lovely. I can see why that was so requested as well.
I'm starting to work on video again. So that's kind of fun. But again, the learning curve, there's a learning curve for me every time I go back to doing video because everything changes. Yeah. Nothing is static in the technological world.
Oh, no, it certainly isn't. Keep people like me in a job.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But so I'm working on video again. And so that will start appearing again on Needle and Thread this year.
Super.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Do you know what? Maybe it's been really fabulous speaking to you. Absolutely, really, really.
Thanks, Sue.
So I enjoy chatting with everybody. But also I'm just so nosy, aren't I, about blogging and things like that. So
that's okay. That's okay. That's great. I
encourage you all to do that. So thank you so much, Mary. It's just been absolutely wonderful speaking to you. I'm sure everybody will find this a really interesting conversation as well. And anybody new who doesn't know about Mary, then crikey, have you got lots to go and have a look at? I'll just say that.
Thank you so much, Sue.
It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Mary.
It's been fun.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and information around this podcast. Please visit stitcherystories.com. Of course, you can listen to Stitchery Stories on plenty of podcast apps at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify and plenty more besides. You can also ask your smart speaker to play Stitchery Stories podcast too. But wherever you listen, why not leave us a rating and a review to encourage other people to listen too? I very much appreciate you taking the time to do that for me. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. Keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery Stories.